During the early 80s, space adventure movies were at their height, with many Star Wars-inspired films, but towards the mid-80s, the popularity of these movies started to wane a little, and eventually these adventures, set in outer space, would represent box office poison. Even Star Wars lost its popularity, with toy sales completely down after the release of the Power of the Force action figures in 1985. The last of these space adventure movies was the film The Ice Pirates in 1984, a swashbuckling space adventure, and was a comedy set in the distant future, where water is a rare commodity. The story revolves around a group of space pirates, who after getting caught stealing ice from a spaceship, are sold off to a princess, who recruits them to find her father, who could have found a planet which is abundant with water. The film is what you'd expect for a space fantasy adventure film, complete with sword fights, clunky robots, alien monsters, bar fighting, time warps. Studio heads at MGM were very impressed with director Stuart Raffill after seeing his feature film High Risk. Not only that, but Raffill had quite a resume of films and TV work behind him, working as an animal supervisor and even a stunt double on a number of films. Starting at age 22, he worked at Disney throughout the 1960s and 70s, and worked on various films like The Lion in 1962 and Tarzan and the Valley of Gold in 1966, before working on the Tarzan TV series from 1966 to 1968. Raffill enjoyed working in the studio system, and this gave him the experience he needed to direct films like The Sea Gypsies, Across the Great Divide, and The Philadelphia Experiment. Originally titled The Water Planet, The Ice Pirates was intended to be a serious sci-fi film, and was made at MGM, who at this time ran into financial difficulty. Due to this, they had to slash the budget from $20 million to just $8 million. Raffill suggested a rewrite of the script to make it more comical, which he thought would make the film more fun and enjoyable. The film's story was loosely based on the Greek mythology film Jason and the Argonauts. Even the main character's name in Ice Pirates was named Jason. The studio would dictate to the director who was going to star in the film. For the lead role of Jason, they approached rising new star Kevin Costner, but decided to cast Robert Urich, who at this time had a contract at MGM to make a TV series, and insisted that he was cast in the film. Footballer John Matuszak was cast in the Ice Pirates as Killjoy, mainly because one of the financiers was a fan. Matuszak is most known for his famous role as Sloth in the 1980s family adventure classic The Goonies. The Ice Pirates was also the second film for both Ron Perlman, who played Zeno, and Mary Crosby, who was cast as Princess Karina. Mary is actually the daughter of legendary crooner Bing Crosby. Angelica Houston was one of the first actors cast, mainly because she was a close friend of producer John Foreman, and asked Raffill to put her in the film. Other actors to feature in The Ice Pirates were John Carradine and Max von Sydow in a small cameo as a bounty hunter in the desert scenes. Also to star was Michael D. Roberts as the sidekick of Jason, Roscoe. Roberts has had a comprehensive career starring in a vast array of films, from Rain Man in 1988 to A Star is Born in 2018. 3 weeks before production, MGM had hired a new studio head who hated The Ice Pirates producer John Foreman and tried to get the film cancelled. Raffill found out that producer Foreman was a close friend of Paul Newman's, and the studio boss said something derogatory about Newman's wife, so producer Foreman punched the studio head. Due to this, the MGM studio head had made it very difficult to finish the film. As it so happened, the new studio boss was eventually found out to be stealing money from the studio. Raffill was just trying to figure out how to make a movie for just $8 million. He remarked, "It wasn't my concept, we just put everything we could into making a joke funny and tell the story." Director Raffill had already spent 18 months with the production crew putting the film together, and had already hired a crew to build the sets. Production was met with many difficulties, with the sound team getting fired midway through production without any explanation. In the scene where the pirates are captured, the spaceship approaches a dome city. The scene is actually footage of the dome city from the 1976 movie Logan's Run. Also in one scene, when the slave cages are being unloaded on Mifra, the car and hovercraft from Logan's Run are visible in the background. There were many scenes cut out of the finished film, including a scene where our main characters fly over the beaches of Malibu with everyone swimming in the water. The studio head cut that scene out without telling director Raffill and producer Foreman, and without their knowledge, sent out the film for distribution. The film on its release was met with much criticism. One critic called the film busy, bewildering, exceedingly jokey science fiction film that looks like a Star Wars spin-off made in an underdeveloped galaxy. Unfortunately, The Ice Pirates flopped at the box office. The film basically represents the death of the space movie genre, which by this point had gone a bit stale and needed to be reinvented in some way. Stuart Raffill saw the film as a missed opportunity and thought that everyone involved didn't take the film seriously, and put the film's disappointing performance down to bad timing. The film came out with another space fantasy film, The Last Starfighter, probably one of the last of the great space adventure films of the 80s. Raffill remarked, not to say there wasn't sci-fi, but the space adventures in theatres seemed, for all purposes, dead. Director Stuart Raffill, after The Ice Pirates, directed a string of box office flops, with films like the E.T. ripoff Mac and Me, now a cult classic, Mannequin on the Move in 1991, the terrible follow-up to Mannequin in 1987. He wrote the original draft of the screenplay for the action film Passenger 57 in 1992, and directed Tammy and the T-Rex in 1994. The space adventure genre of movies died out towards the late 1980s. The Ice Pirates was just one of many, and was certainly the more comedic film of the bunch. I never actually saw the movie in the cinema. I only watched it for the first time a week ago. The film is enjoyable and has that B-grade quality to it. Robert Urich is engaging in the lead role of Jason. The film also pays tribute to various science fiction films, including Mad Max 2, which is definitely apparent in the desert scenes. However, the film has not aged well, and is a little dated by today's standards. But who cares? It's a lot of fun. Films like The Ice Pirates have definitely made an impact to the modern science fiction TV and film landscape. My name's Jonathan. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and like what you see on my channel, please subscribe. And if you would like to become a patron on my Patreon, click on the link below.